And thanks for joining us on your channel of choice, Africa Independent Television AIT. Let me welcome you to the signature show this Sunday. My name is Nwabueze Njoku. Now, this Sunday, I'm rather welcoming you to the program with a sense of failed expectation. Now, since the days of Zik of Africa, Kwame Nkrumah, Kenneth Kaunda, Julius Nyerere, I had an expectation of a Nigerian nation that would be the rallying point of the African continent. A nation to be driven by reason, knowledge, merit, humanity, and a sense of mission. Somehow, in the early and middle 1960s, military revolutions became fashionable. Military hotheads became impatient with non-revolutionary and non-progressive newly installed post-independence governments in Africa. Ghana and Nigeria caught the bug. To the Nigerian bug was added the virus of ethnicity. Happenstance and coincidence were conveniently discountenanced as fabled Igbo domination agenda overtook educated thought, and Nigeria got stuck in the mire of Igbo hatred. It is still, to this day, a political value that drives so many national decisions. And efforts by men like Alhaji Shehu Shagari, Ibrahim Babangida, Umaru Musa Yar'Adua to steer the nation back to a collectivist thinking and national consideration of national development challenges have been thwarted by those sold to guard against resurgence of the Igbo domination agenda. And last week, President Muhammadu Buhari put on our national shelf the stark ugliness of that line of thought that has for long preoccupied and held down the Nigerian state. Speaking on Arise Television, President Muhammadu Buhari made me to lose a major argument with my children. I have some of my children outside Nigeria, in Europe, Canada, and the United States. I've always told them that they could not count themselves fulfilled if they count their achievements in Europe and America only. They have a stake and responsibility to and in Nigeria. However, if the president speaks of this time around, if the president insists on talking to them in the language they understand, if the president tells them that the police and the military are being deployed to pursue them, and if the president is delighted to hear from the elders of the South and their youths that this time around they will not be given access to the sea, and if the president says that their businesses and properties are scattered all over the place and they cannot have access to where they say is a separate nation, then my children have defeated me in the argument. That's a full war against them. And they can minimize their losses by remaining where they are because the president has declared this time around. This is the signature show on AIT. We take a break now and return shortly. Please stay with us.
This is SignatureTV.org. Breaking the news. Following the news. Analyzing the news. 247 round the clock. All on the go. SignatureTV.org. News in your pocket.
Well, last week, killers of members of our communities around Nigeria returned to Agatu in Benue State. Before they returned to Agatu to continue the unprovoked and unattended to by the Nigerian government. Killings in Benue, Plateau, Southern Kaduna, and Niger states. The killers had killed about 116 persons within 48 hours in Benue State. And when the governor Samuel Otom ran to Abuja for intervention and succor, he said that he was told to make peace with his neighbors. The governor has become numbed by a situation that is inexplicable to him, and government's response that is not easily understood. Nigeria's insecurity challenge has become not just a national embarrassment, but a reason to wonder if both of apartheid South Africa did not have a good reason to say, and wonder if Africans could run the affairs of men in any progressive and life-assured manner. Just in case we are losing sight of Nigeria's security challenge and its implications and magnitude, we bring back to this Sunday our special report on Nigeria's scary security situation. Please stay with us.
Anybody who thinks that we are living in heaven, Africa's biggest promise, must be living in a fool's paradise. There are telltale signs that Nigeria is in dire straits. Governance romanticists and ethnic quixotes may busy themselves with calling for a new Nigerian constitution, or shepherding President Muhammadu Buhari away from the unedified conviction that he can only be relevant and nice to those who voted for him. The fact is that Nigeria is asphyxiating, and neither the military-contrived 1999 constitution nor nepotic governance is about to become Nigeria's undoing. What is about to kill Nigeria is its insecurity challenge. That challenge, if not sincerely managed, will choke life out of the nation. The signs are in the open. Because there seems to be no methodical, understandable, and explained effort at an answer to Nigeria's security challenge, many Nigerians today wonder if the nation has a president. They wonder if the president is strong in health and committed beyond allocation of opportunities to articulate and galvanize national buy-in and support for any set of steps to address the nation's security challenge. For the avoidance of doubt, Nigeria's security challenge include insurgency, which has Boko Haram and the Islamic State of West African province as the kingpins, bandits who raise entire communities, kill as many as that cannot escape, and steal the much they can carry. Kidnappers who work in networks or carve out territories of influence and control from where they kidnap and collect ransom in millions of naira, and cults who have links with drug barons and are establishing drug brigades in our schools and among urban youths and political thugs. This list is neither mutually exclusive nor is it exhaustive. Over time, President Muhammadu Buhari has created a confusing narrative as published by many media houses. He has also profiled these groups. For instance, he has said that the kidnappers and bandits are operatives of insurgents who, after their groups have been bloodied by the nation's security forces, have adopted kidnapping and banditry as new tactic to raise funds for their operations or to falsely impress people that they can still fight. Each time there's a kidnap incident like the ones in Dapchi, Kankara, Kagara, Ahmadu Bello University students in transit, the bus load of travelers in Niger State, and now over 300 students in Jengebe in Zamfara State. The president has reacted by giving marching orders to the security authorities to ensure the release of the victims. Each kidnapping has, however, spawned a national debate and stories that the federal government or the states affected pay huge ransom to secure the release of the victims. In fact, in the case of Kankara in Katsina State, the head of the kidnappers himself said that they were paid over 100 million naira to release the schoolboys. The Dapchi kidnap was even more dramatic, as the kidnappers were hailed and cheered into the town as they returned their victims after allegedly receiving hefty ransom. The question is the Nigerian state therefore indirectly funding insurgency and criminality? Apart from the ransom, there have been efforts to dialogue and negotiate with kidnappers and bandits. In Zamfara State, the commander of the kidnappers was driven like an emperor with all the paraphernalia of office into Government House Gusau for a meeting with state government officials. And in Katsina State, the governor, Amini Masari, took an unarmed Nigerian general into the forests to meet with AK-47 slinging commander of the bandits to plead for mercy and for truth. In the latest application of the dialogue and negotiation strategy, respected Islamic cleric Sheikh Abubakar Gumi visited the enclaves of the bandits and returned with the suggestion that they should be given amnesty and treated just like freedom fighters. At present, the Niger State Governor, Sani Bello, from whose state school children were kidnapped and are still being held hostage, has complained that the financial burden of rescuing the children has been left to the state to bear. What is this financial burden? Is it still ransom? Today, many Nigerians believe that these incidents and the failure of the government to tackle and resolve them are signs of a failed state. More frightening, though, is a second line of thought, which is gaining acceptance. The story is that the federal government is caught between the devil and deep blue sea. These kidnappers and bandits are alleged to be Fulani foot soldiers brought in collaboration with Meiti Allah to make Nigeria ungovernable if Muhammadu Buhari lost election in 2015. He did not lose, and these hired fighters have refused to go back from where they were imported. The harder story is that these criminals are elements from Libya, Central African Republic, who are driven by religious expansionism. Both situations put the Buhari administration in a tight position. The stories may be unbelievable, but when the Fulani National Movement says its foot soldiers are in forests in all the states of the Federation, waiting for orders to create civil unrest in Nigeria, and today everywhere is under the siege of bandits and kidnappers armed, the government appears helpless, and some governors canvass for arming of Fulanis to defend themselves. It would be logical to hold the witch that cried in the night and the child that dies in the morning to account for the deaths. In the face of the present security situation, for which the President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, ranking Senator Alin Dume, Ondo State Governor Rotimi Akeredolu, Catholic Bishop of Sokoto, Hassan Kuka have all raised red flags for the survival of the nation. The federal government must now consider initiating action in line with a number of suggested actions. In the first instance, the federal government should create a security architecture that takes the military off internal security to put its full strength into the war against insurgency. That will convince Nigerians that the government is not showing understanding for religious insurgency. Secondly, The government must begin a wholesale reorganization of the Nigeria police force to allow for federal, state, and local government police. It is not the same thing as the present community policing, which in some states have become an avenue for giving uniforms to political thugs. And the government must creatively tackle the emerging network of drug barons who are compromising our financial institutions and creating brigades of cultists in our educational institutions and among urban and suburban youth. If these are not done as a matter of national priority, history will remember the present government as creating the objective condition for Nigeria to become a failed state. That will be a Buhari legacy with those who love him will have to bear as their burden.
You are still watching the Signature Show on AIT. This Sunday, our special interview is warranted by the current debate over the big gulf between the federal government and many of Nigeria's interest groups and even the ordinary citizens. Please, leave the comfort of your car, your Jeep, your Porsche car, and enter any public transport. The complaint against the government is deafening, ranging from insecurity, hunger, unemployment, increasing number of beggars on Nigerian roads, to the shouts of political groups for restructuring or even outright agitation for self-determination. Demand for Oduduwa Republic is in full and methodical progress. The uncoordinated noise for a Biafra Republic is unrelenting, and a new map for the Middle Belt has emerged. Why have these pools become so stronger and more strident under the present government? Is the government communicating division, or has it failed to communicate the philosophy, the policies, the programs, and its political values to the Nigerian public? That is the focus of our conversation this Sunday. Please stay with us. Well, let me welcome you to the conversation segment of the Signature Show this Sunday. You know, at the beginning of this program, I told you that I had a burden. I'm carrying that burden to this conversation segment. I'm a little sad that what ought to be my input as a professional journalist is what I'm going to query this afternoon. There seems to be a very wide gulf, wide and deep, in communication and in understanding of state of things in the country, of policies of government, between the government itself and those of us citizens. Now, this gulf, if you want to experience it, please leave the luxury of your car, your Jeep, and enter public transport and listen to the ordinary Nigerian. You feel a sense of disappointment, a sense of anger, a sense of confusion, a sense of uncertainty. And the government seems to be struggling with so many projects they tell us about. Is it therefore that we in the media, who are professionals, are not communicating this effort by government? Or is it that government is failing to communicate what it's doing or explaining the basis of our current experiences? I have with me this afternoon two very strong media colleagues. First on my right is Emma Bello. Emma Bello was two-time Commissioner for Information in Taraba State. Emma, you're welcome to the conversation.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
And on my left, I have Imoni Amarere. Imoni is a hard-heeled media gentleman who is gone from print to radio to television. Imoni, you are welcome to the conversation.
Thank you so much.
Imoni, let me begin with you. the gulf in understanding, the feeling of anger you can touch, the sense of disappointment in the polity. Is it because we in the media are not telling it, are not explaining it, and therefore the ordinary Nigerian is failing to understand or has not understood? Or is it that the government is not managing its communication appropriately?
First, let me state that the basis for any government anywhere around the world is the people. Without the people, there won't be a government. Therefore, government owes the people a responsibility. Just as much as the people owes those who are in power and authority a responsibility to support them to succeed. So if governments are unable to communicate effectively with the people they govern, there's a problem. And that communication does not just begin and end with its policies and programs. When you carry a people along from the onset in the formulation of a policy, in the birth of a program, they understand it from when it was started and help you to birth it, evolve, and allow it to sprout. But what we have in most African countries, what we have in Nigeria especially, over the years, not just with this government, but with many governments that we've had in the past, is a situation where there is an imposition of policies, programs, and even laws on the people. Even the attempts at, say, public hearings when laws are being considered in parliament and all of that, you can almost see through that this is the direction the people, those who are interested, the elite, want to go. They are only just giving you a semblance of participation, because democracy is supposed to be participatory. But of course, we know that the kind of democracy we practice here and in other African countries, it is not participatory. There is this continued military mentality amongst those in government, amongst the ruling elite, that when they get to power, before they get to power, they pretend to be your servants. When they get to power, they become your rulers. And service is no longer important to them, does not have any meaning for them anyhow. So, to answer your question, I will say that there is a yawning gap between policymakers, between rulers, between government officials at every level, local, state, federal, and the people that they are supposedly serving or they are supposed to be responsible to. Is a yawning gap that has created the kind of anger, the kind of animosity that you just described.
Now, Emma, let me look at the Nigerian Constitution. Communication, the media, is the only profession that is given a responsibility to hold the government accountable to the people. And the only way the media can do that is by communicating. Do you think that those in government see it as a favor to the media, making information that ought to be passed to the public, by which I mean accountable through the media? Do they see it as a favor?
Well, yes, again, it goes down to the issue of almost like it's historic, it's cultural in nature, where our democracy has not robust itself to the point where, like we see in other climes, where whether you like it or not, the media is supposed to hold you to account, put your feet to the fire, and demand from you answers that you're supposed to give it. You are not doing it a favor, and in fact, you avail yourself to get an interview now, for instance, with even, let's say, the president or a governor of the state, or even a commissioner, or even anybody. It's sometimes it's a Herculean task by our colleagues who try to do that, and they will have to go through some extraordinary means to be able to secure such audience. Something that ought to be just, something that should be routine, to be able to just happen. Not just the media going to them, but they, offering themselves to the media and say, I'm available for explanations. And every time it's true. Like Imoli put it, you need to engage the people. You need to talk again and again. Government does itself a lot of favor when it talks to the people. It does itself, it's not doing the media a favor, it does itself a lot of favor. And it should be able to carry the support and the assistance and to some extent the kind of connection that they should have with the media to be able to reach it all in. Because when you don't tell people what they ought to know, they will fill in the gap by hearing from other sources and by clearly listening to other people. So the question to us is that who is talking to our people? Whose voice are they hearing? How do they make up their minds about the issues that are there? Those are the questions that should agitate government. If we're not talking to our people, probably they're listening to some other people. If we're making efforts and we're not telling them, someone else is telling them that we're not making such efforts. So even government needs to actually engage experts and media experts, or engage people that are, are tuned to the people, that are ready to talk to the people. And I can't remember, I don't know, my colleagues now, our friends are doing their best, Garba Shehu and Femi Additional, as it were, and in trying to talk to the people. And that's very important, talking to the people, as opposed to talking down on the people or contradicting the people, or actually engaging in, in a war of words with the people.
I'm going to come to that.
Yes.
I'm going to come to it because there'll be at a point I will ask for definitions of role in this communication strategy, in this communication responsibility. But let me remain with him. President Muhammadu Buhari on Thursday granted an interview to one of our prime television stations, Arise TV. Before the president granted that interview, there was communication that was not inspired by government, communication in the public space. That communication profiled the president as half dead, not in control of government, losing touch with what is happening in the country, incapable of answering to the demands of insecurity in the country. But on Thursday, the president communicated. How did you assess that communication against his profile that was out in the public space, that was not communicated by him, against the ignorance, permit me to call it ignorance, about his health status, about his capacity to understand the security challenges and being able to rise to them? What was your take from that conversation?
Well, you see, again, like I said, government does itself a lot of favor. They're not doing the media a favor when, they communicate. And the interview, the president's interview, did a lot to take away close to a very huge percentage of the, perception that was already, like you noted, was out there in the public. Because he came out and he spoke. And Nigerians saw their president talking. And it helps to know that the commander-in-chief is actually in command. It helps to know that the commander-in-chief understands the war front and to understand the strategy that he was going to deploy. Of course, he wasn't that very fantastic in some of the answers he probably he gave. But we saw a president that was making the attempt to be presidential, to talk to the people and to explain some of the... It takes away, for the first time, I think, the federal government ought to thank, to some extent, the media, again, for saving a whole lot of things. Because while that interview did was to actually serve as some form of reassurance to the Nigerian public that, look, the president is aware of some of the crisis, and probably also is thinking alongside with the team on how to deal with the problem. You might not agree totally with some of the things he said. You might not even agree with the strategy he's trying to put up. There have been a lot of arguments out there, debates on people debating the presidential interview have debated that, well, he didn't come out strong on some of the subjects. But there are things that came out of that interview. First, that you know that the president is not brain dead, that the president is not incoherent, and that the president does not, the whole thing about the fact that he's clueless is not totally the way it was presented. You have a president that was actually also, you know, someone that has been seen as aloof, does not care, is uncaring. He came out saying things like, I worry about these troubles, I'm concerned, and he spoke tough, you know, he talked tough again, said, look, I'm on top of the situation, we're doing something about it, we're going to deal with the criminals and everything. Whether I like it or not, those are the sort of things that Nigerians would like to hear. It might not assuage all the fears and the doubts out there, but, you know, for a very long time, it helped Nigerians to put in perspective the role of the president as their commander-in-chief, as they want to safeguard them, and then of course the crisis that they are faced with every day. So you saw a president that was saying that, look, I understand the problem, I understand that there's banditry, I understand there's kidnapping, I understand that there's resistance movement here and there, but I also understand that these are the things I'm planning to do. Might not have solved all the problem. All I can say is that we need more of that in democracies where the media is taken seriously. The president doesn't even wait for the media to come. You see it on CNN. You see how their president walks straight to the media almost immediately because of the need to know. The people need to know. If they don't know, some other people will be able to tell them something else. So the anger you refer to, the anger, the doubts, the fears, and the annoyance that is out there is fueled by the fact that the people probably are hungry for information. They are hungry to know what's going on. They want to be reassured. The presence of the president just standing there in their face, talking to them, does a lot. And I think maybe that's why I'm told that the president wants to do more of that. We need more of that. But it's not just even at the level of the president. It's down the line. We need leaders that will communicate more, not just talking to the people, but some form of interaction where they're able to, and it's not just, it's beyond the town halls that they try to do at times, which is very political. We're talking of the fact that you need to have managers who are able to communicate. Even though, like Imoni said, some of the policies are not coming from the people. But even if they are not coming from the people, you can still carry the people along by at least interpreting your dreams, your plans. If you don't tell people things, and it goes back to even scriptural thing that if you don't tell them, how will they know? If you don't tell people what they ought to know, the danger of silence is that they are going to fill in the gap. Filling the gap will mean that they are going to source, they will have to go to if they have to go to the dustbin of information, of the information sector to get what they want to, they will get there. So you have to find ways to reach out to them, whether through the social media or to tell them what you want them to know, or else someone else will be feeding them. And unfortunately, for a very long time in this country, that's what we have. You have people saying all sorts of things. You have fake news out there. No one is contradicting them. You have misinformation. Sometimes you have clear-cut lies that people tell. The opposition plays a role in that. And then, of course, you have a situation where you don't blame the people. If you don't give them an alternative, or you don't tell them the truth about some of the subject, they are bound to draw their conclusions. And when they put all these things together, you find them talking in buses or in beer parlors, or you find them having all sorts of conversation. The sort of conversation sometimes we hear them having, and we know instinctively when we hear them saying those things that it is not exactly how they are putting it. The problem might not be as exaggerated as they are trying to put it. The solutions might be there and they don't know about it, and so they are freaking out. They have no access to knowing. So it's very important that government continuously engage the public, either through its managers or even directly by the government itself. Engage the manager, continuously tell them. But the media managers too, maybe we're going to have a conversation about that. The media managers too for the government need to actually do more than they are doing now.
We'll come to that. Imoni, I'm not going to turn you into an ogre, as you say. The president's interview, did you get a grasp of the president's security philosophy? Did you get a grasp of his being less military and more philosophical and humanist in his approach to some of the issues that were raised? Insecurity around the country, is it going to be all boots and guns? The protests, is it all going to be deployment of force? Did you get anything different? That, oh, the president is coming from a philosophical, humanistic, collectivist understanding and approach to the whole issue?
First, let me say that the president's decision to grant that interview was a breath of fresh air. It has erased so many doubts about what is happening to the president. Up until now, the impression we're given by people who claim to be supposedly close to the seat of power is that, oh, the president was suffering from dementia and all manner of names that they conjured up. But the president we saw in that interview was far from being a dementia patient. We saw a president who may not be 100% on top of his game, but one who at least is conscious of his environment. In relation to whether or not his grasp of the security situation and his response to it is all military or all philosophical, I would say as an individual, as a person, that I came away with the impression of a president who wants to look tough, who wants to sound tough, who wants to tell the criminals out there, the bandits, the kidnappers, the arsonists who are busy burning government properties all around the place, and even those who are agitating for secession or breakaway or whatever name they may call it. I saw a president who is not too comfortable with what they are doing and who does not appear to want to say, let us engage in dialogue. I saw a president who possibly thinks that he's still in his military garb and the only response, and possibly the best response, is to talk tough, act tough, and deal tough. That was what I saw of the president. I only wish that he reflects a little bit and understands that we are in a democratic setting, and that in a democratic setting, it cannot all be stick. There has to be a carrot and stick approach to resolving some of these issues. I'm sure that if the government decides today to sit down with those who are interested in secession, or those who are interested in one republic or the other, and decides that, look, let's talk, let's judge all. At least let's start something along that line before we think of the stick approach if the carrot fails and all of that. I think that that is what democracy demands. Democracy is not all about military force. It cannot be, because democracy itself is the antithesis of militarism. So we cannot go back to that era, and we cannot encourage anybody to go back to that era. It's a good thing that the president is talking. Like I always say, since the president granted that interview, there have been many talking points in that interview. It has engaged the attention of Nigerians. You cannot quote silence. The fact that the president has for a very long time remained taciturn, refused to talk, has given vent to all manner of conjectures.
Graveyard.
Exactly.
Now, Imon, I want to remain with you. And I want to begin to define, I want us to begin to define these communication rules. The president has spoken to Nigerians.
He should speak more.
Thank you very much. Does it achieve the same purpose when the president's media aides speak? And let me tell you why I'm asking this question. Some of the statements made on his behalf by his media aides have created conversation combat, which is not healthy for the polity. Did you get the impression that there's a fundamental difference when the president speaks and when his media aides speak?
Absolutely. There's no doubt about that. That when the president of any country speaks, it's different from when his media aide speaks. The media is the aide is, like the name says, is a personal staff of the president. Is an aide to the president. He cannot carry the same weight as when the president speaks himself. You see, the media aides are able to put together press statements or even press addresses in very fine and flowery language, which can be interpreted any which way. But when the president talks, he's taking, literally for what he has said. And those are the meanings that will be imputed. As journalists, we will say, according to the president. No, it's different from according to
presidential media
aid or presidential special advisor and all of that. The authority of the office of the president is in the president, not in his aide. And talking of roles, there must be a clear distinction between a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria who is appointed by the president, screened by the Nigerian Senate, and confirmed as minister, as opposed to an aide to the president. And the minister speaks for the government. The media aide speaks for the president.
For his boss.
For his boss. There's a difference. He was commissioner, two-time commissioner for information. I'm sure he had the media aides or assistants. It was not the same thing as he coming to speak on behalf of the government of Taraba State.
Imoni, I want to go to him immediately on that. And why I'm coming to it, because at the beginning of this conversation, I raised the matter of government philosophy, government programs. And Imoni spoke about the process, taking the people along. Who should be speaking about the philosophy of government? Who should be speaking about the growth, the reason, the rationale for government action? Because if, for instance, no road has been built in North Central for 10 years of the entire Buhari administration, and people are angry, who should be talking to the people on why that action has not been taken? And are we getting enough of that?
Yeah, first, there's a culture of silence, of reticence, of trying to, there's official secrecy too, that, government sometimes trying to play around with, especially in third world countries, where they feel that exposure, beaming the searchlights, being very open about issues, talking to the people, it's a problem. Again, that is also anchored on the kind of, first, the fact that maybe the process itself that give birth to such leadership, it's faulty in most cases. And then you have this deep-seated mistrust between those who lead and those who have been led. And that mistrust, again, too, is also anchored on the process of emergence. When you have a situation where you were not the people's choice, the people really didn't actually even vote for you. Ab initio, there's that antagonism. There's that
you don't feel accountable to those.
You don't feel you're accountable to them. You don't feel you need to talk to them about anything. You feel they shouldn't even ask you. You feel there are places, there are top government functionaries who feel insulted if they are asked question directly. I know someone that was in some state that got in trouble because he actually asked what they were doing with some of the IGR and what they were doing with the monies and all of that. So we don't have a culture of, I think first again, culturally and even maybe habitually, we don't have a culture of, you know, speaking out, of people being queried, being interrogated, citizens knowing their right to interrogate, their right to know, their right to know that this is a social contract. The man in government is not doing you any favor, telling you what he's doing with the monies or doing with the infrastructure, what he's planning to do. But that's the impression that has been created, to the point that you have a situation where anytime we have things like those kind of media chats, people are even meant to think that they were done a favor. Meanwhile, we're supposed to actually hold them to, you know, to account and to say, look, you have to speak. So, to your question, who is supposed to communicate these things? I think the philosophy or the idea behind having media aides or people that will speak on behalf of government is that probably not everybody who is elected in office can be eloquent enough or sharp enough to be able to communicate the sort of thing that they need to. Again, they are also dealing with issues of, you know, governance, statecraft, and the rest. So that for the most part, you actually need experts, people trained in the art of communication. People who are able to talk to the people, who are able to say, this is what is going on. You need such people. And even if we're going to look at the best practices around the world, let's say the US and the democracy there, you find a situation where the press secretary of the White House tries to engage the media almost on a daily basis, almost on every topic that you can find, almost on every movement of government, because people need to know. So, but out here, you see a situation where sometimes a government spokesperson becomes just reactive. They do a press statement because something has happened. Someone has slammed their boss, and so they just react.
I'm going to take that word away from you. Reactive. Imoni. Between government deliberately telling the people and waiting for something to happen for them to react, what kind of problem does it cause?
It creates a lot of confusion in the minds of the people, even in the minds of those who are in government. Government is supposed to, on its own, inform the people. These are development. But when government then begin to react to happenings, it creates more problems for government. And by extension, the people begin to form their own opinions, they begin to speculate, they begin to believe rumors. And this is the era of social media. Like Ima said, there is a lot of fake news out there, a lot of deliberate misinformation out there, so much of manufactured stories that are put out there. So before you react as a government, the people have seen these things, they have formed their opinion, and they want to believe what they believe. So when you are reacting, oh, they'll say, they are just trying to defend themselves and all of that. So it's always best for government to be on top of the situation all the time. Be on top of the situation before you come up with your conjectures. The government has put it out there, and then for you as a citizen, you begin to see and choose which you want to believe. The facts are sacred.
Emma, I'm going to conclude this conversation. There's something a little bit I want us to address cautiously, but we need to confront it. Our security. We've raised a number of questions in this country. I just want to find out if you've been in government where it is necessary for government to tell us. When Boko Haram started in Borno State, Nigerians raised the alarm that they were seeing helicopters dropping either arms or food or people. We never heard from government that this is false or this is fact. When there was massive robbing in Niger State, about 15 communities taken over, helicopter was seen. Again, dropping things. Will the media be wrong to insist that there needs to be a government explanation, either to build confidence or to say that, look, it is not true, or to in fact admit and therefore allow the people also provide information when it is necessary?
No, I think the media in this climb now must either take up its traditional role as the fourth estate of the realm, and take advantage of the fact that we even have it in the law that we can access information. There's a law for that we can actually access information and actually go to court if we're denying information.
The freedom of information.
Exactly. We need to take advantage of that and be more aggressive. It took, for instance, the Arise News TV to say, we need to talk to the president. And I don't know how they went about, arranging it, but they got the interview, and it was effective, no matter what you think. That's a beautiful role, because someone needs to talk. At that point, we needed the president to say something. There's been things were almost adrift. And like you said, the aides were saying one thing, and everybody was reacting. But you needed the president, and it changed the tone, just maybe one notch higher than we made it before. So
in other words, I in the media can insist.
We can insist
that the government needs to explain if some criminals are violating our airspace.
That's right.
Or not.
And again, how are we going to actually be the teachers of the world? Because that's what we're supposed to be, the media. We are supposed to be the last frontier, or the last bastion of information, where people need to know what is happening. It's our job to tell the world. Now, if we don't know, how do we tell? So we need to actually insist on the roles that we are supposed to constitutionally actually play, and insist on knowing. There's no denying the fact. We need to go, but the problem we have with the profession itself, because when you are blaming government for being reticent or be taciturn in it, we must look inwards at the unprofessional practices that we're being accused of. We need to also question ourselves. What are we doing? How are people doing this? How do we deal? The advent of the social media has actually taken the bottom completely out of the bucket, and now we have this free flow, almost like a free fall.
Everybody.
So, but there are people too, again, still the people I call the high priests in the temple of the profession, who are still here, and who should be able to guide the people, because right now people don't even know where to get their information from. They take it from anywhere they can find.
Imoni, following from what Ima has said very quickly, the president said on Thursday that that the government will deploy the police and the military to pursue the separatists in the southeast. My question to you,
and the bandits in the northwest.
Thank you, and the bandits in the northwest. Let me ask you, should we ask the president what the rules of engagement should be? Let me tell you why. There are reports that the rules of engagement are not humanist.
Well, that would be a very difficult task to do, in the sense that, all around the world, countries and governments seem to guide very jealously.
In a cloak.
In a cloak. They guide very jealously.
Things of security.
So even if you ask, they will not divulge to you. They will not tell you. So it's going to be a Herculean task, trying to get the president to tell you the rules of engagement. He has told you he's going to deploy police or special forces and the military to deal with these situations here and there. It might just be a strategy, a warning to those who are carrying on this thing, to say, look, we are coming. I mean, security is not all about physical force. Some of it can be psychological, to tell you that, if
your days are numbered.
Yeah, exactly, that your days are numbered, and then you call yourself to reason and say, look, these people are coming after us. We better disengage.
Okay, Imoni, since you said we shouldn't ask such questions, I'm going to tell you what Chajikin said. He says, ask no questions and be told no lies. Emma, thank you very much for this conversation. Imoni, We won't stop asking whether we are doing our job well and whether we are feeding people appropriately. This conversation
there's a
never
lot
ends
of
if
room
there's motive for us
for
to
improvement.
work. Well, the conversation never stops. Next Sunday, we still keep on, and my name never changes. It remains Mwabose Njoko. Good afternoon. Well, that's our program for this Sunday. Let's meet again next week, God willing. My name is Mwabose Njoko. Good afternoon.